Hi, I'm Shiv.
And I'm Chitra.
We are the co hosts of this show, Software People Stories.
We're happy to bring you stories of people associated with software as makers or consumers.
In every episode, we talk to people on their own personal and professional journeys.
Their interests and approach to work and life in a free flowing conversational format. We hope that you will be able to draw your inspiration from their experiences and insights.
These podcasts are made possible by PM Power Consulting, who have helped individuals, teams, and organizations on their delivery excellence journeys. Welcome to this episode of the Software People Stories. Today, my guest is Sridevi Devathi. Sridevi comes with 24 years of IT industry experience, of which she has spent 21 years with HCL Technologies. She has worked across quality, delivery excellence, process and estimation, consulting, pre-sales, project delivery, software development, and related areas. She has also been a trainer and consultant in quality, project management, and estimation. She is currently managing the estimation COE at HCL. She has also participated in many industry forums and also was a panel member in two recent ISMA conferences. In today's conversation, Sridevi talks about how she started as a developer and then moved to quality and then went on to establish the estimation COE. I also asked her about what has changed in the last couple of decades that she has been associated with software development, where she talks about both the technologies as well as the models for software development and some of the challenges that have continued to bother teams in the last couple of decades. We also talk about the relevance of historical data in estimation and how some of these are applicable for uncertain environments such as startups. We also dwell a little bit on how she manages work and life from an estimation perspective and how she uses art as both a stress buster as well as to provide motivation. Listen on. Welcome to the podcast, Sridevi. It's been a long time since we connected, so I thought it's also be good to capture your experiences that will be useful. Very recently, we kind of rebranded the show from software lifecycle stories to software people stories because the emphasis has been on people, their experiences, what they learned, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, and those experiences that will be useful for others.
Right.
So we normally start with the guest introducing oneself. So if you can introduce yourself, and then we can have a conversation going forward from there.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Shiv, for having me over this podcast. And I'm happy to be here and talking to you after a very long time. Yeah, so I'm Sridevi Devathi. I have been with HCL for past 21 years, completed 24 years in IT this year. And I think I'm happy with the way my career has been with HCL. I think started as a delivery person in COBOL projects, COBOL DB2, and also worked on a re-engineering project in Java and DB2. Then I moved on to quality when I had my first daughter because I wanted to take something which is less pressure. And then I was also inclined to quality because I was part of a CMMI journey at that point in time. And quality has, I was there in quality. Then I moved on to quality consulting. As I think I was also a trainer by then because I was PMP certified and CFPS certified. CFPS is the function point certification from IFPUG, International Function Point User Group, which I did in 2006. So quality and this estimation and training journey was about few years. Then I took up quality consulting. And I did a lot of consulting assignments, both in process side and estimation side for HCL clients. And then this also gave a foundation, formed the consulting part of my career, formed the foundation for the creation of Function Point Center of Excellence within HCL, and which slowly evolved into an independent organization called Estimation Center of Excellence. This is the COE I have been managing for the last 10 years, and I think this is an area I'm quite passionate about. And I think because of the work we did in COE and my interest, I also had an opportunity to be part of two international conferences in the software measurement side, ISMA conferences, one in 2017 in Mumbai, ISMA 17, and the recent one, the last, one in 2 months ago in Bangalore, another ISMA conference that I was a panel member in both of this. So that's in a nutshell what has happened this far.
Wonderful, Sridevi. I think you actually covered the entire life cycle.
Yeah.
Being developer, re-engineering, working on somebody else's code, as well as quality, teaching, consulting, estimation, all that. So
Right.
a couple of more of curiosity questions triggered by that. The first one is, over the last couple of decades that you've been associated with software development,
Right.
what has changed?
Yes, very nice question. Actually, this is also reminding me of the topic we had for ISMA 17 conference 2 months ago called Industry 4.0. So I think that today the industry is referred, if we really look at from starting from the mechanical industry to mass production, electronic industry to IT. So IT, and then if you look at IT is about 40, kind of 30 to 40 years now. And in that, I think a lot has changed. So we looked at initially, sorry, yeah.
I said, don't say 30, then I'll feel very old. I was there before IT. No, I was not pre-IT. Yeah.
Yeah. So this, I think if you look at, we primarily looked at mainframes. Then there was this client server era where we had, mostly, client server based applications that I've worked with when I started my career. Then we had internet web era. I think that's when we've interacted, Shiv. I think your DU, delivery unit within HCL, definitely had a lot of internet Java, internet based web applications that came in a decade ago. But I think in over the last 1 decade, there is a, what do you say, major change in the way we are working, in the sense there's a lot, a lot of automation that has happened. So today you're not really doing a lot of coding, manual coding. You're putting together a lot of technical components than manual coding. And there's a lot of automation that itself has happened within the software development as an area. Then we're also mostly moving towards agile DevOps model, right? So we are more than waterfall because of the new projects that we are doing in the digital and analytics, because most of the applications which were in internet web era are getting re-engineered for mobility based solutions, or we are building in microservices based architecture. So most of these applications are getting re-engineered and they are going through agile based development model. So which also means that from life cycle perspective, technology perspective, we are looking at mobility, cloud, analytics, social media also comes to play here. So all of these put together, there's a lot of new things that we are doing currently.
Nice. But as a consultant, trainer, or as a head of COE, when you go and then help different teams,
right?
The complementary question is, what are some of the challenges that have remained or continue to be challenges for teams?
Yeah, I think I'll answer this specifically for estimation because that's been my expertise in the last, specialization in the last 10 years. Yes, there are some challenges which continue to be there. That is, the teams that estimate for the RFPs, that is the solutioning teams or the pre-sales teams, are typically a different set of people versus the team that actually executes the projects. I think this continues to be a problem, and the handover may not happen. I'm speaking this both from having seen internally and a lot of reports that I read externally, or or talk to people outside other organizations also. I realize that this problem continues to be there. So one is that. then at many a times the clients are asking for a fixed bid while having the requirements at a very, very, very high level. That I think is a constant problem that we live with. But people do find ways. So of course, as I think most organizations do, we also advise people to document the confidence level of the estimate, or for example, in Agile, we also look at the clarity level, story clarity index kind of a thing. So things like this we build in so that we are very clear to the customer right in the beginning, saying how much is the confidence level based on the kind of requirements that were given. So these things are there, and a lot of times we also are expected to do or sign in for a fixed price, while ideally a T&M would have been a right contractual way to go, especially in agile scenarios. So these challenges are there. And of course, this is more from the contracting and RFP perspective. But let's look at, even if you look at the projects as we execute, what we have seen is a lot of times people are not using the standard, like for example, let's take IFPUG. So standard sizing estimation models, which have so much of historical data and benchmarks available, people are not utilizing it. And still there are times projects or managers are still continue to use expert based judgment, which doesn't always work. So those issues are there.
When you mentioned that technologies have changed the way software is developed, like agile approaches or architecture wise microservices and so on, how relevant are historical databases for estimates or estimation using some of these newer approaches?
Yeah, I think very valid question. So the function points applicability of pure if IFPUG function points is still debatable for some of the newer technologies, as well as the way the architectures are. So until client server was there, it is 2 layers. The data part is taken care of. The presentation part of it is taken care of. As we moved to internet web, we had about 3-layer or 3-tier architecture, which is also taken care of. We do have some baselines, but definitely not for the newer areas. Like, let's say I have Documentum or some data warehousing component. I have some of the content management applications, or sometimes we have business process management, Pega kind of technologies involved. We definitely do not have baselines or historical data here, TIBCO, for example, or anything to do with big data, the latest. Then that was the few years ago. But currently, as we speak, anything to do with big data, mobility, or to do, if cloud-based development, do I have any numbers? Definitely not. So there are 2 ways to address this. There were 2 parts to this. One is the how do I estimate for these new type of technologies? So it probably there are a few different ways that we could do. Cosmic is the 2nd generation functional sizing metric, as you definitely would have heard by now. It came in 1990s, much I think recent compared to IFPUG, and Cosmic definitely would fit in. But only flip side is there is not much of industry reference for this model. Otherwise, it is a tested model. We have piloted, used in some of the projects. It definitely works well for the newer technologies. Only thing is you do not have much adoption and data. Even if I look at ISBSG data, that is International Software Benchmarking Software Group, standard group, benchmarking standards group. They do not have much data on these newer technologies, but Cosmic would work. Now, so which means that Cosmic is available for newer technologies, but I do not have data. There are projects like HCL, as well as most organizations, I think I heard in ISMA conference as well, most people have developed their own models for the newer technologies, whatever has happened in the last 1 decade. Okay, which means like for something like a content management or a data warehousing or a middleware SOA based applications, in these technology areas, what most organizations have done is they have developed their own estimation models. That's because if we do not have data, and probably there was a difficulty in adopting, because it doesn't recognize the data flow between the multiple layers in between the application. So that is where, if there is a complex processing logic, in the layers between the presentation and the data, there are multiple other layers which have complex processing logic. It does become difficult to apply IFPUG for this reason. So people either have developed their own models like we did in HCL. We've also called them technical size estimation models because we have defined a size estimation where I can even benchmark, baseline and benchmark productivity within HCL. So these are the way for estimation. I think I talked about two things on this side. One was how do we estimate. Another approach that I do think companies or organizations could do is do a retrospectively go and size the work that has been done in the past in any of these technology areas. We could adopt IFPUG or Cosmic, whatever they think feasible, and definitely baseline our historical productivity. So pick up closed projects and do a retrospective method. That is also an approach that we could take.
Okay. So for those who are not familiar with formal estimation approaches,
Right.
if you can explain whether these techniques normally cover only the sizing, or do they also look at estimating, let's say, the schedules or the risks or any other things that can be estimated, which may not be very clear in the beginning?
Correct. Yeah. So I think I'll start with the IFPUG FP, that is in function points. Function points again is a functional sizing metric. So it does look at purely the entire development or the scope of work as the functionality that needs to be delivered from the user perspective. So it is purely focusing on functionality, and definitely it is only talking about what needs to be provided to the customer in terms of functionality, doesn't recognize how it needs to be done. So my functional size will remain constant irrespective of I'm developing in COBOL or Java or probably Angular JS today. So it doesn't change. The FP will still be same. So definitely it doesn't cover many things. The biggest component in all these standard estimation methods is the productivity. That is why historical data plays a big role in estimation when we look at the structured methods. It also makes it is also a right method to do it, because first of all, you're sizing the work and putting a boundary around it and saying how much is the work that I need to do. Then I will look at how part of it. So is it what kind of an architecture, what type of technologies that I'm going to use, what are the reusable components are there, how skilled is my team, is there certain documentation expectation from my clients, what is the process model, what should be the release cycles. So the life cycle model, everything will play a role in my productivity. So this productivity number, most organizations build their own historical data. Once we apply productivity on the size, we get the total development effort starting from requirement analysis until your release part of it. So it typically has everything, and again, everything, because your productivity factor includes all of that effort. So the output that you get from a combination of size and productivity is your total development effort. Normally the rest of the efforts like project overheads, or let's say you have a post release support, warranty and all this, you have to go by certain thumb rules or some percentage over the overall development effort. That is typically what we do. And in terms of the schedule, everything else, I think it is outside these methods, which each organization goes ahead and defines it. And we could also utilize COCOMO model. That is, it is again very old model, constructive cost model. It comes with certain formulas as to how do you convert the total effort into a number of resources, considering certain very valuable inputs in terms of life cycle and other elements. I think the COCOMO could also be used for deriving two things, the team size and the schedule.
Okay. What about risk?
Yeah, risk, we are definitely not part of these models as it is. We would have to estimate this separately. We normally have it, as a mandatory section in every estimation. I would say, if I have to be specific, every estimation template that we have for various types of projects, we mandate the usage, a documentation of risk, specifically considering the open areas or the gray areas in the requirements. And also, I think, as I mentioned a bit earlier, the quantifying the the overall confidence level of the estimate is a very, very critical element in all the estimates. And the risk factor is also factored into the estimates. We do that.
Okay. You also mentioned that there is a tendency for people to go back to their experience or gut feel and all that.
Yeah.
So, is there any work that is happening anywhere internationally, or what you might have seen in conferences, etc., of bringing in some of the AI, machine learning, and those kinds of things to understand the data, understand the patterns, and try to improve the accuracy?
Yes, I think I've heard this. In fact, I think this did come as I think, not a topic, but I did hear people say about this. But I mean, personally, I do think it's not as simple as it sounds. Maybe because of the diverse technologies, the diverse ways of, implementations that happen. Maybe a bit difficult, but maybe a few years down the line, maybe, yes. And I do see, I think one point I wanted to also mention is, while we talk about all this people-based approach and how, learning based on individual experiences, the standardizations is still a very, very big thing when we look at the financial services sector. So a lot of RFPs that we receive from the global banks or financial institutions look at FP as even sometimes a output based pricing metric, right? So we have there are RFPs which clearly say we would want to go with FP based or Gartner function points. Gartner also has its own variation of function points, which is an revised approach of IFPUG FP. So that is also there. Then CAST is a tool that that is a static code analyzer which analyzes application quality in terms of non-functional requirements. This tool also has a ability to give function points. So there are some of the financial institutions have started to use FP as a metric to measure the output in projects. Or, for example, some are also moving towards cosmic. So what I'm trying to say is, while we would want to still, I think, probably bypass these or maybe not really do this, I think there is also a mandate that comes in certain types of clients that we work with in the financial services side. So we would have to use these standard approaches.
Okay. See, one thing in Bangalore, you find is there is a very healthy startup ecosystem.
Right.
Now, are some of these techniques or the variables that startups need to handle something that formal estimation approaches will help in?
Yes, definitely. See, what is happening is the keeping aside the part that I do not have a historical data right now from the industry. Each organization can build its own data. See, even if I have done 3 to 4 modules or 1 or 2 projects in a certain given technology, maybe the latest of the latest, it doesn't matter. I can still do and go and do a function points or a cosmic and baseline my productivity, correct? I can definitely use it. It's all about how, how they want to you have a standard approach. See, finally, people have to, I'm sure, whether it is a startup, I think it is all the more important. Let me say this. It's all the more important in a scenario of a startup that they standardize their methods, because probably they are working with a lot of maybe young kids who are coming into the industry right now, learning new technologies, may not have had a luxury of having an experience of a structured development life cycle like we have done in the past. So maybe they are coming with 1 year, 2 years experience, not have had a holistic experience. So I think structured method is important to ensure that, first of all, we have a right estimate in place, and it also covers all elements of risks, and like we discussed earlier. So this part needs to be definitely estimated for, and the structured method definitely helps in getting a right estimate.
Okay, so based on whatever you have seen over the years,
right?
After the estimation is done, the plans are done, what do you think are some of the characteristics of highly successful or highly productive teams? whether it is in terms of technical practices or maybe team or the people softer aspects that you have seen?
Yeah. Yeah, I think see, continuous innovation is the theme, or I think the projects who are continuously working on improvement, self-improvement, I think always succeed there. See, not there are times when they're continuously optimizing. I think in different ways. I think both from SDLC life cycle perspective or people skill perspective, there are times people adopt tools to improve the productivity of a team. There are times where the people themselves are upgrading themselves on both from technology perspective, domain perspective. They have, I think, self-improving teams are where I think we have seen productivity. And of course, provided they do not have an attrition in between, the change of scope and things like that. But I think mostly, I think people are also, I think tools have play a biggest role in the productivity part of it, I would say.
Okay. Now, one curiosity question is, since you've been doing so much on the estimation side,
Right.
at work, how much of this spills over into your personal life? For instance, whether it is estimating groceries to be bought for the week or month or anything else.
Yeah, I think there are two reasons. See, it definitely influences me. In the sense, first of all, I'm too organized for everything. That's, I think, one thing that I have to say. So in fact, I have a menu for my entire kitchen. That means what I cook for I have a 6-week menu planned. I know what groceries I need on a weekly basis.
Wow.
It's more like very structured. So I've gone to that level. So I do have. And I'm too organized. So most of the time I factor a risk, and I have mostly on time for everything on all my personal front as well.
Very nice. But how does this kind of a need for estimation, discipline, and all that work with the more startup or the innovative kind of teams, the teams that work on those kinds of problems? Now, how do you typically engage with them, or how do you explain the need for being more disciplined?
Right. See, I think once you have I think there are two parts to this question. So one is, end of the day, whether it is new guys or a startup, whatever, they still have to meet the client commitments, right? The estimation has to be accurate. They should have a right contract in place, whether it should be T&M or a fixed price, has to be a very good decision based on the team and the type of work and how clear are the requirements. So once that is in place, I'm sure these guys will work really well. I'm sure the newer generation, Gen X, whatever you want to call, they definitely want to, prove themselves. I think I've seen most of these teams work very hard to meet and put a lot of passion into the work they do. So which is, I'm sure, they're not bothered about the estimation, right? End of the day, estimates are from the manager's side and at the contracting level. And once they've come into it, most projects, from my experience, the newer projects in this kind of an area are done in agile fashion, right? And I think agile also is quite lively. If you see, it looks at team bonding and it looks at team working together and in a self-improvement mode, I think, which also works well. And as long as we have a good agile coach and agile the project lead there, I think it works beautifully, as long as we have brought in the right set of people and the motivation in place there. I think estimation again happens through the team-based approach, right? In an agile scenario, the team sits together and gives a story point, puts together a story point estimate. That way they're responsible for what they commit, kind of a thing. So which is, I think, works very well for the newer scenario. Provided, I think I think I have to probably put a disclaimer here again. The team has to be strong, because it becomes a people dependent model. End of the day, it becomes a lot a people dependent model.
Nicely put. So the last question I had, again switching between personal and professional. I know that you have a very strong, not only interest, but also you've been doing a lot of work related to art. So how do these two coexist, or no, do you find that as a stress reliever, or do you find that as an inspiration for your work?
Uh, uh, I think it works both the ways, but I think at this point there are two things. When I look at art, there are times when I sit and draw, probably even in between few meetings, because that's a big stress buster for me. So more freehand drawings that I do between my work, and incidentally, because because of a COE kind of a work I've been doing in the last 10 years, there's not a physical team that sits with me and I'm in a one particular cubicle or a one particular ODC that we sit. My team is always distributed. I work with a virtual team. So there are times when I feel, I'm like an individual contributor, because I'm like engaging with multiple teams at different points in time. So these are the gaps when I utilize also. Sometimes it's like a stress buster. I'm working between too many teams. So I do use it as a stress buster. And there are times it becomes motivation, like I use it for my festivals and all. I do a lot of work on decorating God. I really feel good about it. It motivates me too. Yeah.
Good. I think there is a lot of need for relieving stress in the IT industry, I suppose.
I agree. And I don't know if you completed question, but something coming to my mind. I think for me, I have been lucky in a way, because I moved into a SME individual contributor kind of a role in the last few years. So which does give, and also I came out of pure play external consulting. So which gives me a little bit of, less stress as compared to a pure delivery role, is what I think.
Yeah, okay. So on that note, I think it is good that we are reaching the end of time for this podcast episode.
Yeah.
I'm sure there will be a lot of questions, other views as well. Because estimation is something that definitely triggers passions many times.
Right.
So
actually, I would be willing to answer any questions. If someone has, they should be able to send it to my email, or they can connect me on LinkedIn. And I would love to answer any questions on this, because this area of my interest always.
Yeah, sure, Sridevi. We'll include your LinkedIn reference in the show notes.
Right.
And thanks once again for taking the time and sharing your experience in a very condensed manner, but covering a wide range of subtopics under the broad theme of estimation, as well as the work-life balance.
Thanks a lot, Shiv, for giving me this opportunity. And I'm hoping that I have covered and answered the questions. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Sridevi. If you like the show and would like to share your experiences with the community, or know someone else who might want to do that, please get in touch with us at podcast@pm-powerconsulting.com. That is podcast@pm-powerconsulting.com.
Please rate the show on Podchaser, Stitcher, iTunes, or any other podcast client that you find us on. Please also share our episodes with your friends and others in your network. If you or anyone you know would like to be featured on our show, do write to us at this email address: podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.